Okay. Here is this. Me. That is that. And that is that. Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the governance call. Our last call was on the 30th of October. So it's been a couple weeks. Anyway, we got lots of stuff to talk about. I'm sure lots of people want to talk about other things too, so we'll get into it. Governance, 27th November. Tell me your intentions and distractions. Mine is to figure out a schedule for this call. And Stuart's calls going forward. And lots of merger type topics. My distraction is, I don't know, lots of different meetings today. And I'll pass it on to Alman.
Thanks, Mitch. Intention as well, try to get some clarification around times, because also my calendar is a mess. And to catch up, especially with maybe these forum posts regarding Dev Connect, how to report correctly. And I'll pass it to Rochelle.
Thanks, Almond. Intention is to bring up this Dev Connect retreat reimbursement and how to charge in Clockify, and also the forum post about the October compensation reimbursement. So that proposal includes like 80% stables and 20% give tokens proposal. And distraction is, it's pretty late here back in the PH time zone, so snoring again. And I'll pass it to Franco.
Thank you, Rochelle. Intentions for the call is just streaming, catching up. It's been a while since we've had a governance call, so yeah, and I've been kind of out after Istanbul. Distractions, just like I had too much coffee, that's my distraction. And I'll pass it over to Nicola.
Thanks, Franco. Hi, everyone. My intention is to have a great time here with you guys after a long time, catch up, get aligned on everything. And I have no distractions, fully present with you. And I'm going to pass it to Mr. Jake.
Hey, Nicola, good to hear you. I am here to understand how we do governance since it's been so long, and distracted by both Giveth, General Magic, and personal life right now. I will pass it to Ash.
Thanks, Jake. Intentions for the call, just to find a sense of normalcy and routine again, I guess, like get my head back in the game and yeah, start to establish this healthy routine again when it comes to work. That check in with just all of you because it's been so long, and maybe even talk a little bit about some ideas that Mitch and I were talking about with Communitas and the DAP. I don't know if that was on the agenda, but I would like to get like just a wider consensus maybe. And yeah, that's my main intentions, just catch up. And distractions, I'm working from a hotspot, so it's like a little, I don't know, it goes and it comes. It's good right now. And should probably start thinking about something to eat soon. So that's my other distraction. And I will pass it to Lauren.
Hi. Yeah, so my intentions for the call are basically just to kind of like hopefully realign with everybody after the retreat. I feel like a lot of things came up in the retreat, and well, at least I haven't felt like a kind of breaking down and like realignment of like what we're taking from that and what we're not taking from that. There's just been kind of like an there was like we made a lot of decisions sort of, and then we didn't make them into finite decisions. So I hope in this call we can kind of get a little bit more aligned, at least on kinds of what our priorities are, or talk about like the GM and Giveth merger, like what that looks like going forward. So we don't have a bunch of people doing like also redundant work. Yeah, and then other than that, yeah, I'm just distracted by catching up on lots of things, and I will pass it to Griff.
GM. Oh, it's that a little Zazu Griff. So my intentions are very similar. I would love to hear what our thoughts are going forward. Giveth GM merger and all those things, like post retreat first governance meeting. That's exciting. I also have an intention of making sure everyone donates on Gitcoin. Donate on Gitcoin, and Gitcoin made me a special group person who can make a collection. So there's a Giveth Galaxy collection, one-stop shop for all your Galaxy needs. So definitely click that. There's 10 Galaxy projects that you should donate to. And then there's also a collection to the other ones, you know, like other projects that you could look for. So yeah, distractions. My lawyer is calling. Okay, and I'll pass it over to, how about Heather?
Yay, I'll take it. Thank you. Wow, 1 month since we've had a call. My intentions, like many other people, is just to talk about the merge and other topics that were brainstormed during our retreat, like reducing calls and different types of DAO structure and different working groups and stuff. And my distraction is making breakfast in the background. Well, my mom is, and Lauren's cute top that she's wearing. And I will pass it over to Santi.
Thank you, Heather. Intentions, just as many as you mentioned, just see how we migrate from all the decisions or discussions we had on Istanbul. And distractions, just get rid of this cold I catch in Istanbul and it's still bothering me. And I'm not sure if there's anyone else missing. Back to you, Mitch.
Really? Oh, Giantkin. And there's a few more, but yeah.
GM intentions, just to welcome everybody back. It feels like it's been very odd. Glad to see everybody. Distractions, obviously, still recovering. Yada yada yada. And then reopening the office is exciting. Anyway, I don't know who's next, so somebody take it away.
I think Danny joined. We can hear from Danny.
Yep, I am here. My intentions are low at this moment to listen to these conversations and understand what, if anything, I can contribute to, and no distractions. Thanks.
Cool, great. Well, I think I want to move this schedule around here and maybe talk about planning this call, since there is some confusion. Time zones have changed. I hear clearly that we want to have less calls, so maybe we need to just quickly figure out what we should do with this call and the call that we were supposed to have today as well, the steward's call. I would like to propose that maybe we try doing things bi-weekly. So having this governance call bi-weekly, have it an hour long at this time. And the off week, we can have a steward's call that's an hour long. Some feedback I heard is the steward's call is too short to really get what we want out of it. So maybe it's better just to have it every 2 weeks and spend a whole hour on it. And that would be at the same time that this call would happen, every other week. Any thoughts or ideas? Counter opinions? Seeing a lot of thumbs up. Yes.
Would it be at the same time like we're having it now? Because we have
Yeah.
the rewards call as well, like at this time. So just so we can
I
choose.
have the dev call before this,
Yeah.
and there's the fundraising call after this.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
I'm saying we.
No problem.
Yeah.
And then also before that is a GM call. So it's a very busy Monday.
Yeah. But it's important because everyone has clarity on what they do from, Monday to Friday. So I don't know.
I guess the question I would have is, does GM have meetings going on like this as well? And if we're talking about merging, then shouldn't we be looking at how we schedule these? I like the bi-weekly idea. I like the idea of having governance one week and stewards the next week. I just wonder how we will be more inclusive and both participating in those meetings and in changing the schedule.
Hmm. I think the governance call is cool because we try to be more of a DAO than GM. So, but I think you're right, Danny, where like the stewards call, maybe we need to have more presence from General Magic in there. Mm, I guess we don't really have any GM people here besides maybe Griff or Heather or Jake.
Yeah, I mean, for GM, the only real consistent call that we have is every Monday at 2 p.m. CTE. Other than that, people work asynchronistically, or we break into our own like quote working groups. Like design has their own calls, HR has our own calls.
Hmm. And what's the value we'd want to get out of inviting, combining the meetings, or is it harder,
Oh, that's a good question because I mean in my experience like the DAO ops call for Giveth, um we talk around like more policy. And then in the GM HR call, we talk around like more like structure and like strategies for building more of an online community because we don't have as many calls in GM.
Hmm.
So for me, they feel pretty separate. And also in the GM call, we talk around more like transparency around like finances and stuff. And I think that information should still stay private.
Hmm. What about this call though? Like the governance and the stewards call? Is it worth having everybody like GM and like the whole galaxy there, or?
I don't
I
think so.
think it's cool to be inclusive, and if people want to come, they can come, but I don't think it necessarily has to be mandatory, but open to the ideas of others.
I think that it might be better just to organize if like this merge first before combining calls or having everyone in every call. Because if we really don't have clarity of what is going to happen with the merge and what's going to be the structure, then just having everyone here would be even more messy, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
totally
don't think
agree.
go ahead, Ashley.
I was just gonna say I totally agree. I feel like maybe the PM call or something like that, it's better to have maybe the more of the Galaxy members there, something like that. But as far as like governance and stewards go, maybe like not yet until we have a better idea of what the structure will be to like invite everybody into the kitchen. But the PM call, like maybe it's good to have them there, especially if we're sharing resources, you know?
Yeah, that's already what we're doing. But please, one more point, Danny, and then maybe we can transition.
I just think what Heather said is really valuable and is what we should be thinking about when we're merging and combine, looking at how to restructure the working groups and the chapters. That if there's certain calls that are focused on policy and there's other calls that are focused on different aspects, then the question is, how are we structuring those calls to accomplish these goals and getting the right people in them, whether they're GM or Giveth? That's all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So maybe that takes us, I think, so that what I hear from at least this point is we'll do this alternating call thing. So 1 week hour of governance, this next week an hour of stewards. And then we'll leave things as they are, with that changes and not bring in the whole galaxy right now. that could take us to this next topic here. This is like a very first draft that Danny and I worked on. Okay, this is just viewing. This is going to go to the forum. Everyone's going to have a chance to chime in on this, but maybe I can see everyone wants to talk about this, so maybe we should just talk about it. This is following some calls that we had, or some meetings that we had during the retreat around operational merger. I had a big discussion with about like 20 people from like Galaxy there, and then also there was like some thoughts that was done near the end with like Danny and like the small groups that presented the Gantt charts and all that stuff there. So this is the GM Giveth operational galactification. We ditched the word merger and we went with galactification, which isn't a real word, but we made it up. So probably this is just like a lot of context and stuff that most people understand. We identified 3 types of mergers in our discussion. One was an accounting merger, one was like an investability merger, and then the third one was this operational merger, which was like, how do we just combine so that we like make sure that we don't have to let people go on the Giveth side, and that like people are working more efficiently and they can work across many different products in the whole galaxy. I'm sort of paraphrasing. I think there was more to unpack there, Griff or Danny, with the intention behind it. Okay. So there's, yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to add too much more because I hear that mentioned one that we can start with and people into those.
Your audio's really bad. You're cutting out a lot. You're very far.
Has it always been like that, or was it just this time?
Just that time. You're way better now.
Okay, probably because I just put my other earbud in. I think the thing I just want to say is, there's the larger intention of alignment, but the short-term operational steps to get the working groups and chapters structured like laid out in this proposal will then inform the next phases, because then we'll have people into those groups to strategize those pieces. So I think starting here with this operational piece it's simple, and it's a restructuring that will then lead into the next sections, such as the bigger goal of investability and united fundraising, for example.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a lot of stuff here. This is like the bullet point stuff of like what I would like to propose, because I know that there's many people working on this simultaneously. I heard it in the GM call today. I heard it from other people that they were working on this. So this is what I've been working on with Danny, and maybe it's good that I just read this out loud and then we have like some discussion. Does that sound like a good idea, or are we missing a step? Okay, Griff's giving the approval nod. Okay.
Maybe,
so there,
Mitch, maybe we
go
could
ahead.
just set a little intention that while it's being shared here, we're all going to have ideas and thoughts, and this is going to go up on the forum. So we could have a
Yes.
brief discussion afterwards, but let's just use this as the opportunity to receive it and then go right in the forum.
Yeah, exactly. So this is all going to go in the forum. This is not like the official thing that's going to happen. This is like pre-advice process you can think of. But I just want to put it there because everyone's working on it. Everyone's thinking about it. And this is our space that we have weekly to attack it. So there's 3 different things here that I think we can split this up to. One is operational processes and communications. Second one is organizing chapters, and the third one is organizing working groups. So at the top there, operational processes and communications. We need to modify the forum so that GM can have their discussions there. Yeah, sure. There's no comment access yet, Griff. But you can have it here. I want to put it to the forum and allow everyone to have it in like a discussion format instead of. So making the Giveth forum the Galaxy forum, and making sure that GM can still have their privacy and access permissions and everything, but we can have like a place to have like a forum style discussions. So fixing the forums that it accommodates everybody's needs. We need to fix our Discord channels. I don't think we should make a third Galaxy Discord, please. I hope that doesn't happen. Yeah, the trauma. So fixing like, okay, if we're gonna merge the chapters, who has their meetings where, our voice channels, do we, so repurposing Giveth GM Discord channels so that we can have this coordination. It doesn't feel super complicated. Oh, this is one. So Notion restructuring for Galaxy communications. Did you add this one in here, Danny? Or did I do it and I forgot about it?
I'm so sorry. I was talking elsewhere and I didn't hear it.
Restructuring our Notion. This was
Yeah,
you?
I just put it. I didn't say restructure it. I said assess restructuring it. This is a
Think about
preliminary
restructuring
piece
that.
because it's gonna come later, so we should be thinking about it now.
Yeah. Luckily, that's the easiest part. Notion's pretty flexible with a lot of that stuff. But yeah. So those are the three things around ops. Chapters, so a lot of this is just redundant, like combining the development chapter into one, thing, which already happens. DevOps chapter for the Galaxy, that already happens. We're just making it official. Design, again, the designers are already everywhere. So a lot of this isn't changes. We're just kind of like legitimizing it. We're just saying, okay, this is actually how it's going to be. The trickier ones, I think, will come into a comms chapter. So how do we combine our communications resources? Very tricky. A product chapter, again, we've tried it. Something still needs to change about the structure. And this third one, which I'm actually curious to hear from Danny more on, is a contributor relations chapter, which I think sounds like HR, but with a different name. Maybe you want to
Yeah,
elaborate?
I'm just looking at the different chapters that are there, and they're all very skill specific around building. And there's a whole section of people ops skills that are kind of distributed across HR and fundraising and rewards DAO and Communitas. So unless there's a chapter I don't see on this list that's not on this list, I just don't think we have something on here that brings together the people that are doing people relationships, from partnerships and contributors and HR management of employees, if you want to put it that way, and then across to all of our givers. And there's just a people piece, that there's a group of people doing those things in different sections. We're talking about changing how Communitas is. Rewards will be more closely associated with contributor distribution of rewards, and that also goes along with salary. So I see a missing chapter. I don't know, is HR in a chapter? Is DAOps?
Yeah. Heather could
I
probably
just see
speak more to
something
that.
missing. And I think this ties, I'll also say, I think this ties into some of the things we didn't get to at the retreat, like the leadership training and things like that, that if we're going to be creating these chapters and working groups and having leads, then there's also some leadership development that goes along with the participant relations. Yeah, and I'd love to hear from Heather, and I'd actually like to have a follow-up call with between the people I just mentioned.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm not quite sure if I understood you completely, so I think a follow-up call would definitely be helpful. Because yeah, I would say like the DAO ops call in Giveth is very DAO ops focused. Like it's really focused on more governance policy. And yeah, I think we should definitely probably have a subset call and like brainstorm how the operations merger is going to look.
Mm-hmm. But this already happens kind of in effect when you spend time, like you and Nico get together and have calls about this stuff, or with like Ahmad, you know? I think that already happens, no?
Yeah, it definitely happens. I mean, it's not an open call for everyone to come to, but maybe it could be in the future. I'm not sure.
Doesn't have to be open, but I think that's what Danny's asking, is like what already happens. We just didn't give it that name.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds right.
Cool. Okay. Cool. Sorry, I'm just trying to take notes and do this agenda at the same time. Doing a very bad job at it. Okay. Working groups. This is a spicier one. Biz dev. When just fundraising. Okay, sure. Can I have 10 million chapters? Let's do it. I just want to make sure that like anyway, working groups. So big thing here is like season proposal thing that we're trying to do in Giveth. That we like kind of bring it into GM. So like if there's like a process for all of these products to kind of like organize themselves. So it's like every 3 months that there's like, okay, what did we deliver? What did we spend? What are our goals for the next 3 months? That we have that process that happens like inside of the general magic products. And then the whole galaxy kind of has this like system of running on seasons or something where we can assess whether we keep going with the product or not. And there's like maybe some clear leadership behind them. This other one, speaking to Ashley about bringing the Communitas activities into the DAP and other working groups, but mostly the DAP. So maybe downsizing some of Giveth's structures. This one I just brought up to Franco this morning, and maybe this is fresh. Maybe I shouldn't even be talking about this, but like maybe rewards, does it need to be like a separate thing with its own calls and budgets and everything? Do we just do it in DAO ops and give out reputation, investing, and give tokens all from the same place, you know? Okay, so I think this conflicts here. Maybe we can put that. Moving DAO ops to the galaxy. So, you know, currently there's all this separate, you know, policy and governance stuff that happens in Giveth, and then there's something that happens in GM, and maybe that needs to come to like the galaxy so that it's like more efficient in the planning. And then the last one, I talked to Jake about this actually maybe a month or so ago about a fundraising working group so that they can just plan and be more accountable about the time they spend and the work that they deliver. So that's what I'm proposing. There's a lot of like things, practical things that need to be unpacked, but that's as far as I've got. And maybe we can open it up. I see Griff's got some points there that he wants to make. DevOps and biz dev.
Yeah, I'd just love to hear. I mean, I feel like having a whole chapter of 3 people might be overkill, and I know that there's always a lack of communications between development and DevOps. I'm curious, Kai, if you think that we could just join those 2 chapters together.
I mean, it's an organizational thing. The reason why it's like that is very quickly explained. The developers, they want to deploy quickly and want to deploy with quality, and it's very good like down the line if so that's why it's 2 different teams, because it's really a different thing, and it makes us have our own, you know, kind of pockets where we can operate. Because when developers were doing deployments, like we still have some open things that are very construction sitey, even though they are years old. And we can totally. I hope that answers your questions for many reasons, but planning and resource sharing and domain knowledge, it could be a bigger team, but it has a good size for now. I mean, but we're always open to suggestions. That's just how we would do it.
So you would maintain it as a separate chapter than development. I just think it's just so small. It's only 3 people. I was thinking it makes sense.
Yeah,
to
it's not
pull it in.
about this. It can operate with 3 people. We could also have a developer team that's only 4 people. It's just that we have many, many more developers, and we don't necessarily need more DevOps. It's that this is the minimum amount, I would say. And the reason for separation is domain knowledge, domain operation, and it just makes for clear communication. They have their own meetings. Developers have their own meetings. And now with having a CTO enables us to have more integration. And that was the only thing missing. Just a bit more communication for it to run smoothly. But in the end, the developers should not care about those deployments. They want to focus on different things. That's why it's separate. Also.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cool. Then the other one is just adding a chapter for BizDev. Like, there's a lot of work going into fundraising, but it's not the same work that's going into BizDev. And I feel like maybe I don't know if it's a chapter that does BizDev or it's a working group, but it could just all fold into the fundraising working group and just be a separate like stream. But it's kind of like, where does money come from? Working group, or chapter, however you guys want to play it. But I feel like there's definitely a bunch of people missing, like, Ahmad and Jake don't really fit into any of these groups.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking about and starting to look at all of the biz dev documentation from the retreat. And I kind of figured let's go with this first forum post of reorganizing the work groups and integrating them a little bit more, and then letting that inform where those business dev tasks that we identified fit into, or if we need to make another change.
Okay, cool. Go ahead, Lauren.
I just feel like, the structure that we have, and this doesn't quite solve it, is like currently like very clunky. Like, I mean, like, what is biz dev? Like, are you just saying, oh, this is like seeking investment, or is like biz dev rather than long-term roadmap, like adhering to long-term roadmap and like strategizing how we're building products and in what order, so then that kind of trickles down to like what products we're building, which then is like, the working groups, which borrows from the chapters. Like, I feel like it's like you're like, yeah, biz dev, so that Jake has a place to go in this picture, which is like, okay, cool. But like, what we really need is more alignment on a higher level roadmap that then kind of like, there's like some kind of structure where things come from here and go to there. Like, things come from long-term roadmap strategy as well as grant pursuit that then goes and like asks from like the development working group how we can kind of like coordinate that. And we need a better structure for this that I think is still lacking in this proposal.
I think it's more of a Galaxy thing than a Giveth thing, although it's more like asymmetry finance, like working for these other development groups, other clients outside of Giveth, we do a lot of work to try to drum up client work and also drum up investment opportunities, hopefully soon too. And like, fundraising kind of covers some of the product work that we do, but it doesn't cover the client work.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what both of you are saying. Lauren, I think what you're pointing to, the longer term roadmap and strategy towards regenerativity, is not addressed by this initial change. But I do think that taking concrete steps initially, which is what Mitch is championing here, will get us restructured into the teams that can actually look at that and figure it out in the next phase. That's something I was starting to. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, Dana, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's okay. It's okay. I was just going to say that this is what I was starting to gather out of all of our retreat docs and look at how I would actually put like our prioritized projects into a Gantt chart that has long-term regenerativity as the goal, but also our short-term fundraising initiatives and this restructuring to reduce costs. That's part of where Mitch and I were had a little bit of back and forth. Like I get that we want to do some concrete steps right now that'll move us towards the bigger goals. But I also think there's some long-term stuff that we do need to be looking at too. And the business development part of it, like maybe fundraising evolves into business development, and fundraising is just one part of that. But it also fits into the piece we're not even talking about here, which is merging the accounting and administrative tasks besides the operations.
Lauren, I don't know if you're going to go next or not.
Oh, you can go ahead, Jake. I'll mute and consider what I'm going to say.
I was just going to say specifically on biz dev and fundraising, just for more clarity, it is completely separate, but like Griff was saying, it can be a chapter under a bigger topic because traditional fundraising is going after investments, VCs, grants, that type of traditional fundraising is what fundraising turned. But business development, where you're going after business to business, B2C type of client gathering, where we're going after projects and developing, and it's either one-offs or swag shops. That doesn't really fall under fundraising. That's actually developing the business. So they are two separate topics, but can fall under going after the money type of circle or something like that. So there is a difference between business development and fundraising. And so if we're looking at merging a for-profit General Magic and a non-profit public goods DAO, then we do have to look at the two separate topics. And I know we're getting very specific, but we're also talking about biz dev right now.
I do have one question. I just wanted to ask this because I asked Mitch when he produced this forum post. We're being very, very specific right now that we're talking about merging some activities between Giveth and General Magic. And I would like to hear more from a long-term strategy, whether that's really what we were talking about in full when we talk about the Giveth Galaxy. Because like Griff, I look at your presentation around the big Web3 opportunity, and the big Web3 opportunity is all of the Legos. That's Common Stack too, for example. So I think about the steps that we're taking right now to move forward, but also in the bigger picture, we're talking about more than just Giveth and GM, right?
I think it's mostly Giveth and GM. Common Stack is basically 1.5 people besides me. It's Tam and half of Ivy. And then Trusted Seed is like half of Max, half of Ivy, and half of Yanasi. So they're kind of like really, they would rely on Giveth, or they'd rely on GM for all development, basically. And I think it would be great to fold them in, honestly. But at the same time, I would say that I wouldn't consider making, I would put them in the product working group and call it good, like separate products, and they would probably just interface there. As far as other projects, I don't think there's any other projects that would be part of the merger. While the Galaxy might be like definitely include DAppNode, and I think it would include IDEN3 and like some of Jordy's other work. It's like, I think it's really just these core projects that, like the Token Engineering Commons that has its own DAO. They might work with us a little bit, but I wouldn't call them a product of the Galaxy.
They're more like a client at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I feel like.
DAppNode is also a client. And Common Stack could be a client, but honestly, Common Stack it's just TAM, TAM is
like,
so like it might be easier to put in.
Yeah. Like who's currently, coming to our calls that we coordinate with on a week-to-week basis, I feel like there's a clear line, between Giveth, GM, and then like everything else, that I don't think we coordinate so much with.
Yeah, I think it's only Common Stack and Trusted Seed that I kind of like put really close.
They're like half in. They're like circles, like half in.
Ivy goes to a lot of fundraising calls and like a lot of other calls, and like we have our Twitter support group, which includes Ivy, and she does all the Trusted Seed and Common Stack stuff. And then Tam actually just did a discovery process for GM for a potential client, and then there's it's like we're Regen Score. Mateo has been working on Regen Score for a while now, as well as I think Toss into the design. So it's like, but it's Trusted Seed is a little bit more clienty. I don't know. I would put them in though.
Okay. Okay, cool. Great.
I just still think that we're missing a clear flow of like priorities, like and a clear prioritization trickle down thing, because it's like still okay if we have fundraising chapter separate from biz dev working group separate from all these product things, then they all kind of have their own roadmaps, and then we're still going to have the same fighting over resources and poor coordination, and then like snap to thing that we're trying to get away from in this like merger thing. Plus, I also think that like with the idea behind the merger is like to make us like more investable and like kind of like these are how all these products are working together, and this is why this is like a whole cool thing that I think needs some strategy and like some space for checking back into that then informs like other things that are working within the galaxy.
Yeah, I feel like the natural evolution of this is that the leads of each of the chapters kind of have maybe some kind of syncs or arguments. Like right now, Craddy is like, listen, I'm going to assign all development. And that's how Marco has been for a long time for development and design. You want to get a designer? Go through me. I will allocate the designers so that they're efficiently allocated. And that's what Craddy wants to do with the devs. And so if we follow that pattern, then we could do that with the other chapters as well. And the leads could all basically be the ones kind of, instead of the ones like allocating, there's no fighting anymore. It's just a clear decision process. Like I feel like the product chapter's job is to kind of prioritize. And then pass those results would then be passed to
the chapter
Craddy.
leads.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I have written here. That's what I was thinking we should be doing. With chapters is like there's like a lead for every chapter. So like Marco does it. Almond does it. Well, Almond ideally, Craddy or Monique was doing that where it's just like, okay, here's all the work, and then that person like understands the available resources and then distributes it, This person is good at this task, they're available, okay, here, Whether that works in practicality, I'm very curious, because we've only been trying it this way with development for a while, and I don't think it's ever worked with comms the way we wanted it to.
Right. I think the biggest problem with comms is that comms team is we just don't really have a comms team. We do, but we don't. I mean, like Almond is just one person, and then there's a few people who help, and we're like, the biggest problem with comms is that we don't have comms contributors. We don't have full-time comms contributors like acting reliably in comms, except for Almond.
Yeah, this was one of the questions that occurred to me around the shift of Communitas is how much of that communications work that's done in Communitas, does that make sense to be part of? There's external communications and then there's intra communications.
I'm gonna take all this because we have about 15 minutes left, and I know there's a few things Shell wanted to tell everyone about. And I'm gonna listen to all this. I'm gonna make the proposal. I'm gonna put my proposal, and then we can all tear it apart in the forum. Does that sound good? This is good though. This is interesting stuff with the biz dev and all of that, and the contributor relations. So following that, there's this vesting thing that we're supposed to do, and I'm just, do you guys think we should wait and figure out this stuff, and then maybe, because some of the discussion is like, should the GM people also have like equity in this? Should they have reputation? Should they have all these things? So technically, we should start doing the vesting, but I'm wondering if people think that we should wait to be more inclusive.
I do not think we should wait. I think we should do what we said we would do and make a plan for what we're going to do at the next window and then make the change.
Yeah, I agree, especially since it's for Q3, so Q3 is already happened.
Okay. Any other opinions? Okay. Cool. Well, if there's no strong opinions to do it the other way, then I'll probably go with just doing the Q3 vesting right away.
Does that include the NR Give tokens? Or R Give tokens, I guess?
Our give tokens, we just did it. We just finished it. So we'll have to change. We're actively talking to Franco and seeing if we can change the system. What we talked about like a month ago, So, yeah.
Yeah, we have the rewards call next, and this is exactly what we're talking about is what needs to change now for the next season. How are we going to shift that up with what we know now? And I think the merger part of it is a big thing to consider.
TEC is about to is about to make big plans for changing their reputation system too. So might be interesting to compare notes.
Wow. I'm the reward system steward and I'm finding out about this.
Well, it comes from, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but it comes from the migration. When we migrate to Optimism, there'll be a reputation token built into the DAO. It won't be deployed at the time of migration, but there'll be a big conversation about how do we want to offer reputation to the token engineers in the TEC.
Cool. I'm going to leave this to the call that's going to happen after this, the rewards working group call, and I'll make sure I'm there. Cool. So vesting Q3 will do it. Our give reputation still need to think more about it, but we just finished it, so okay. There's only one thing that I wanted people to vote on. There was this one vote, or sorry, I think there's a few multi-sigs things too. But there's this optimism thing. Kai put his proposal to mint some R-Give, basically like at the time everyone started traveling to Istanbul. So I just think it was fair to give him another shot when everyone has more of their attention. So there's just this one vote there for Kai, and it just needs a few more votes on there. Well, technically it'll pass already by 0.25%, but there's that to vote on.
Thanks for the
and then
overwhelming support.
yeah, I noticed it failed and I just wanted to leave it. But there's also another thing here. And did Giveth Main, did it already happen? Oh, it already passed. Okay, great. Ramin unfortunately had his wallet hacked. Sucks. So I moved his give stream so that the hacker couldn't steal his give slowly over time and sell it. He doesn't know how it happened. This is the scariest part. He just he didn't even realize it until 3 days later that they got his private key and started draining on all the different chains. So it wasn't like clicked a bad website. It was like, go ahead.
Who was it?
Ramin.
Okay.
Pretty spooky. He doesn't know what happened. And all of that wallet is getting drained in all the chains. And they sold all his give. So That sucks. Except for the stuff that's locked in the give power, but we don't know how to get it out. I don't think we can get it out.
You can get it out at the time. I mean, he still has the key. You just have to be quick about it.
Just has to be quick.
You have to be quick, and you should probably use a service that skips the mempool.
Anyway, so those passed on Optimism and Gnosis chain, I think, already. And I'll skip that. And actually, I just want to maybe give Frashell some space to talk about these forum posts. Just a few minutes left.
Thank you. Okay, so the first post here is about the Clockify and Ars charging guidelines for the 2 weeks retreat and DevConnect week. So mainly for the retreat week, this is considered work, and all the hours that we spent discussing, working together, and meetings and all of that are considered work and should be reported. And then for DevConnect week, there's a suggested like guides here of what to consider as work and should be reported and should be charged, and what not is considered work and should not be reported or paid. So these guidelines mainly should help the hourly contributors to guide them on how to track or report their hours and which hours are to be paid by Giveth or GM. And for full-time contributors, since full-time contributors receive like a fixed payment per month, so they just need to report for whatever working group they worked on for those 2 weeks, and also for the retreat week, or if applicable, the project called like Retreat and DevConnect week project. So that's for the first part. And the second part is the reimbursement guidelines, which is the flights and also the meals. So there were meals where we paid for our own meal and we will be reimbursed for that. So the details are there on which meals are considered reimbursable. And so if you haven't added your meal expense in Clockify, so you could have the option to just add one line item, so you don't have to add multiple line items for the same meal expense. And if you already did, so no need to edit it. Just make sure that the amounts are within the limits stated here. And so yes, if there are any questions, you may raise them now or in the forum. Anyone has questions about this? No. Okay, so the second one is the October reimbursement. So the what changed for this month is the percentage of the amount we will reimburse Griff. So for starting this month, this October reimbursement, we will request 80% in stable coins and 20% in give tokens. So that's the major thing that's changed here. And that's it for me. If you don't have any questions, I'll pass it back to Mitch.
Cool. So 76,000. Well, good thing Ether's going up. That's all I can say. We should be fine, I think, as long as Ether doesn't go back down. Cool. Great. Any questions? Oh, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
one last thing. So a reminder, since a lot of people are here, so the deadline for the submission of expense meals and flights reimbursement is until November 30. So that's this Thursday. And also for your time reports for this month, for the month of November, please add them until December 5, so we could finalize all the accounting stuff and payments and everything. So please take note of the deadlines. Thank you.
Cool. Any questions around this core team compensation, the 80% or any of that? Cool. Well, there is 4 minutes left in this call somehow. I want to know if there's anything else that we needed to cover. No? Okay. Donate on Gitcoin. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, please, everyone, go donate on Gitcoin. It sucks. You have to bridge Ether to public goods network, but please, we have 10 projects up there, and there's like in the chat box here. I'll repost it. There's a couple of links. They're really good to us. Thanks to I think Breachies and everyone who voted for me. We have we have a Giveth Galaxy collection, which I just put in the chat. And I also put another collection together of like 60 or so decent projects that I know are legit. So how cool is that? You can just click that add all to cart button, and boom, all the Giveth Galaxy projects are in your cart. Definitely go get a few more though, you know? So like, cause if you just do the cart, then we'll get cluster mapped, and like, so grab make sure you donate to like at least 15 projects. Check them out. Find your favorite projects and give them all $1, please.
All right. When are we gonna get to donate Give on Gitcoin?
I mean, this is, you know, Gitcoin is could be better. That's why. But this is why also quadratic funding seems to be such a good opportunity for Giveth. So.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it'd be really cool if people could be buying Give to give on Giveth. I would do it.
You know what's crazy is
I mean, to give on Gitcoin.
they can't even donate GTC.
What?
You can donate GTC. Yeah, you can donate GTC on Giveth. At least last round they couldn't. No, there's no way, because who's going to donate GTC on Public Goods Network?
All right. Well, Give would be awesome to donate.
Cool.
Yeah,
And just to clarify,
I recommend donating Ether. It's cheaper gas, and you just have to bridge one thing over. Sorry, what were we going to say?
Oh, Anna Maria showed me this cool bridge app. This is better than the PGN bridge, because you can go straight from Optimism or Arbitrum to PGN network.
Nice.
So you don't pay that crazy gas fee from like Ethereum, like, you know, $20 or something.
Yeah. Share that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is that and they don't take that much of a fee?
No, I used it last week and it was pretty good. I used it last week to donate on Gitcoin. So yeah. Cool. And just to clarify, Craddy, there's no steward's call, because there's a fundraising call. And so there's no steward's call happening this week, and we'll have an hour-long one next week. So just so that's clear for everyone.
Nice. Thanks, Mitch. Another great call. Thank you for stewarding this governance group.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Yep, and thanks for the forum post. Can't wait to hear what everybody has to write on it.
Enjoy the rest of your meetings.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.